20-minute video. Let's go.
Breaking points is
Wait, $50 dono. Any tips for convincing relatives that the false elector about the any tips for convincing relatives that the false electorate conspiracy? Question mark. There's so much incriminating info, but it's hard to break through to people when they have to admit they were lied to for at least we're working on it. Don't worry. We'll go over that in an hour or two.
The news show Breaking Points is misleading people about Ukraine. There, I said it. You know, just a couple months back, Preston Stewart made a video about some of the errors in Breaking Point's coverage of Gaza. And Preston Stewart is a West Point Army artillery officer, and he continues to serve honorably in the reserves. He was very charitable in his review of their mistakes. I am a retired platoon sergeant and a typical SIG guy. I'm going to be a lot less charitable because at this point, I think the staff at Breaking Points is misleading people intentionally. Now, there is no way a news organization can be this ignorant about military events. These guys managed to be worse than New York Times. And I did a whole video about how the New York Times only had 27 people out of 8,700 staff who were former military. The New York Times is pretty bad. These guys are worse. Now, this video from Breaking Points came out on August 13th, 2024 regarding Ukraine's Kursk offensive. This is an offensive led by Ukraine that has pushed about 40 or so kilometers inside Kursk Oblast of Russia. I say or so because we really don't know. Ukraine has kept such good OPSEC or operational security of the attack that most of the information that we have is from evacuating Russians. Now, the video published by Breaking Points was riddled with errors and conjecture and opinion. And I'm going to go over this video frame by frame and mistake by mistake and correct the record. Now, I'll only be showing selected clips. This video is under their copyright, but this review is fair use for commentary. And believe me, I got some commentary.
Oh boy.
So just as a note, you can watch the full video from Breaking Points at the link below. Good fact checking is transparent, and all of my data can be found at ryanmcbeth.substack.com for free. Let's get started. The first misleading statement comes within the first 10 seconds of the video with this line from co-hosts Sagar and Jetty.
We have a crazy situation right now in Ukraine. Media that barely even wants to report it. The United States is currently backing a full-blown invasion of Russia.
Oh boy, I don't even know where to start with this one. So, the Wall Street...
Actually, would you... No, you could. I was just thinking of the term invasion. If somebody invades you and you're fighting a war, and then you like counter invade, would you call that an invasion? I feel like colloquially, invasion seems to imply the start of a conflict. That's what that feels like to me. So, like for instance, if somebody says like, "Oh, yeah, wait, hold on." So what you just said there, I don't think I've ever seen that term before, or seen it said that way. Yes, we invaded Germany in World War II. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't think I've ever seen it, or I don't know if I'd hear anybody say something like, this is when the U.S. invaded Germany. I feel like invasion usually implies like start of a conflict. What would you say? I don't know, like counter invade? We were planning to invade Japan. Yeah, but I don't know, but I feel like that was less like an invasion and more like invading like a particular thing. Like you're invading like a like you can do like a particular invasion, but to say that like they invaded in this year sounds like the start more of a conflict kind of thing. At least that's what it feels like to me. Hold on one sec. Generally an offensive action on a defense. Yeah, I feel like that's usually the association. Hold on. Or here, actually, you guys listen to this.
Wall Street Journal has been reporting on this since at least August 9th. And the New York Times has been talking about this since August 7th. And NBC had a video about it on August 8th. So Either Mr. Andretti doesn't read the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, which is bad, or none of the Breaking Point staff does, which is bad, or they did and they lied about it anyway, which is bad. There's really only three possible options here, so it's one of those three. Now, every day I wake up and I spend 2 hours reading the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Haaretz, and then multiple intelligence newsletters cover to cover. I can't expect everyone to do that, but if you're making a mistake 8 seconds into your video, you might want to rethink your production process. Or you're doing it intentionally, knowing that your audience is never going to check. Hi, I'm the guy who checks. Now, there is one other possibility, and that is since there really is no video coming out of Kursk, the nightly news or CNN just has a harder time talking about it. No video, no story. There's only so many times you can show the same Su-27 flying over the same patch of ground. Now, and this was just only in the first 4 seconds. Let's talk about the other 4 seconds.
The United States is currently backing a full-blown invasion of Russia.
The United States is backing a full-blown invasion of Russia. All right. I don't know if that's true. I can tell you this. I work for a private intelligence contractor. That's one of my 4 jobs. I knew nothing about this. Nobody I know in the intelligence community knows anything about this. In fact, I've been spending the past few days talking with people over Signal who should know about this, and they don't. Nobody knows what the heck Ukraine is doing or what their goals are in this Kursk incursion. Now, I do have a theory about what is going on in Kursk, but I'll get to that. If you want to skip to that directly, you can go to this time somewhere up here. Let's keep going.
Now, philosophically, I don't really have a problem with this. Of course, whenever you're in a war, you should be doing whatever you need to. The issue is not what the Ukrainians are doing. It's the fact that U.S. NATO weaponry is being employed to literally invade Russia.
Now, this isn't a lie, but what Mr. Andretti is doing here is parroting a Russian talking point about escalation. And I want to start by saying that Russia doesn't need an excuse to escalate. Russia is like Aunt April in that Tyler Perry movie. They can do bad all by themselves. They don't need a reason. And I'd also point out that during Vietnam, when Russian missiles were shooting down American B-52s, did anybody say, whoa, Russia, you can't do that. It's escalating. You're escalating with a nuclear power. That would have been absurd. And it's absurd saying it now.
So I think I said before, I don't think, I used to say that there were no times when U.S. and Soviet forces directly shot at each other. I think this did happen though in Vietnam. I think we corrected that a while ago, but there were times during the Vietnam War where we had some direct confrontation between the both of us.
Missiles were shooting down American B-52s. Did anybody say, whoa, Russia, you can't do that. It's escalating. You're escalating with a nuclear power. That would have been absurd. And it's absurd saying it now. This is a defensive war. Ukraine is using a variety of homegrown, captured Russian, and NATO weapons to defend itself. And what is the end result of this escalation? Is Russia going to bomb Ukraine harder?
Pretty sure it happened in Korea as well. It might have. I don't know fuck all about the Korean War, but
they're already doing that. Remember, Russia can do bad all by themselves. They don't need a reason. Now, typically, the next spooky thing that comes out is that this could result in NATO going to war with Russia. That's not going to happen because Russia doesn't want it to happen. Russia knows that it can't defeat NATO. It can barely even fight Ukraine. Russia needs to keep NATO the heck out of this war. And that's why they sling lies and disinformation on the internet. They know they can't defeat NATO militarily. But if they can get NATO's population to tell their politicians to turn off funding, then Russia might have a chance at defeating Ukraine. This is why I say disinformation is a weapon that shapes the battlefield. If Russia wanted to stop munitions from entering Ukraine, they could bomb some German artillery factory. And what would that cause? That would cause NATO to go to war with Russia. Or Russia could convince the German population not to support Ukraine by telling them that Ukraine is corrupt, your money is going toward buying cars for the Zelensky family. But the effect is the same. The ammunition gets turned off. You could...
Wait, how many likes did this have? 26,000 views.
Family. But the effect is the same. The ammunition gets turned off. You could bomb or you could use disinformation. Disinformation is a weapons system. Let's keep going.
This is not disputed territory. This is internationally...
Does he do this to protect himself from copyright? This little like setup where he's watching the TV?
recognized.
Or maybe it's just like a little queuing thing he does for no reason.
This is not disputed territory. This is internationally recognized an invasion. And that is literally the justification for every dollar of the hundreds of billions that we have shipped to Ukraine.
Okay, so there's two things wrong with this. Mr. Engetti is kind of implying that Ukraine has lost the moral high ground because they invaded Russia, and this is supposed to be a defensive war. And he talks about billions of dollars we sent to Ukraine. Now, one trope among Russian sophists is that the U.S. is loading up C-17s with pallets of money and just releasing it by parachute over Ukraine like the Joker in Batman. And that's
Yeah, I think we just drop directly the Bugattis for all of the Zelensky government officials. We don't actually send them money anymore. We just send them the cars directly.
just not true. We're sending some cash, and other countries that have fewer weapons are sending cash. But for the most part, we're sending old weapons. Rocket fuel expires. If we don't shoot these HIMARS and Patriot missiles, we have to send them back to the factory where they are disposed of in a very expensive demilling process because it's hazardous waste. Now, ideally, we could shoot them, but there aren't enough training days on the calendar to do that. So why not give these expiring weapons to Ukraine? It saves disposal cost, and that cash he mentioned goes to buying new rockets. That means American jobs are produced for stuff we have to buy anyway. Let's keep going.
And then just consider, can any great power nation sit there and tolerate an invasion of its own territory?
Honestly, maybe. You know, one of my master's degrees is in engineering management. It's basically an MBA for engineers. And when making business decisions, one option is always to do nothing. You know, some people say that Ukraine started this incursion because they want Russia to move troops from the south to the north so Ukraine can attack in the south. And I don't think that was the plan. I say that because, let's say Russia takes 1 out of every 3 soldiers out of the Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk to form a new unit and go north. Well, you still have a bunch of landmines and fortifications to deal with, so you really haven't reduced enemy capability all that much. Remember that scene in the 2004 version of The Punisher where Frank Castle hits the Russian hitman and the dude just looks at him like, what? Russia may view this incursion as a do-nothing response. Yeah, contain it, but don't let it detract from your main goal, because eventually the advance should run out of steam, maybe? It's almost like by ignoring it and not reacting to it, Russia is refusing to take the bait. So let's...
Wait, I have to listen to that again. Hold on. Sorry, I'm writing this tweet. Good fact check by... Hold on. I should be antagonizing people on Twitter more. Ryan McBeth. This guy? There we go.
Maybe. You know, one of my master's degrees is in engineering management. It's basically an MBA.
One of my master's degrees? Okay, bro. Okay, little bro.
For engineers. And when making business decisions, one option is always to do nothing. You know, some people say that Ukraine started this incursion because they want Russia to move troops from the south to the north so Ukraine can attack in the south. And I don't think that was the plan. I say that because, let's say Russia takes 1 out of every 3 soldiers out of the Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, Luhansk to form a new unit and go north. Well, you still have a bunch of landmines and fortifications to deal with, so you really haven't reduced enemy capability all that much. Remember that scene in the 2000...
I feel like if you were to try to reduce enemy capability, it might not be for an invasion, but it might be to lessen the pressure being put up by... it might be to reduce the pressure being put up by by like an actual aggressive act, right? So like just because you get them to pull some defensive fortifications out of the bottom or out of the south doesn't mean that now you can suddenly invade, because like you said, there's a whole bunch of layer defense and everything else. But if they're applying a lot of pressure to you in an aggressive manner, couldn't you theoretically get them to lessen up or ease up on that aggression by pulling some soldiers back there? Maybe I don't know enough about the on the ground situation to say. I don't even know if with how military doctrine works today and everything that's involved, if that would even do anything. I'm not sure. I don't actually know. It's just a guess.
2004 version of The Punisher where Frank Castle hits the Russian hitman and the dude just looks at him like, what? Russia may view this incursion as a do-nothing response. Yeah, contain it, but don't let it detract from your main goal, because eventually the advance should run out of steam, maybe? It's almost like by ignoring it and not reacting to it, Russia is refusing to take the bait. So let's keep going.
And there is no doubt, Crystal, that this is 100% with the backing of the United States.
Oh, there's doubt. I doubt it because, again, I don't know anybody who knew this was going to happen. Ukraine has displayed incredible OPSEC, almost to the point where they didn't even let NATO know. Let's keep going.
Can we sit here and risk a literal invasion of Russia at the same time that we have billions of dollars in military assets steaming towards the Middle East?
So I think it's safe to say that Mr. Engetti is not a military strategist, and it kind of shows. I actually looked him up on LinkedIn. He was a Pentagon correspondent, but he really doesn't have any military experience. So one of the things you need to understand is that the U.S. isn't the hokey pokey. We're not what it's all about. See all of those flags up there? Every single one of these flags represents an allied nation who sent me a patch from their uniform. The U.S. military is built for a two-front war. Any attack from Iran would be a mostly American, Israeli, Saudi, and Jordanian naval and air force fight with assets that we already have in the Middle East. Any fight in Europe would be a ground and air fight with...
Wait. If people gave me some patches when I was in Israel, should I start hanging these up? Does this give me credibility? Can I start soliciting patches from you guys?
Mostly NATO.
These are just like patches given by veterans, right? Not by like the country itself doesn't award a patch, right?
Two-front war. Single one of these flags stand is that the U.S. isn't the hokey pokey. We're not what it's all about. See all of those flags up there? Every single one of these flags represents an allied nation who sent me a patch from their uniform. The U.S. military is built.
It's got to be like a person, right?
For a two-front war. Any attack from Iran would be a mostly American, Israeli, Saudi, and Jordanian naval and air force fight with assets that we already have in the Middle East. Any fight in Europe would be a ground and air fight with mostly NATO units. The Navy wouldn't really be all that involved. So we have enough assets to deal with both problems, and anybody who knows even a little bit about the military would know that. Let's keep going.
The fact that the Biden administration finally caved and sent those F-16 fighter jets, that is a big part of the
caved. That the Biden administration caved.
The reason why they were able to make these gains.
Okay, so I don't even know where to begin here. First off, the Biden administration did not send any jets. The F-16 fighters are older jets from the Netherlands and Denmark, although Belgium and Norway have pledged jets. I don't think any of those have arrived yet. So these really weren't our jets to give. Now, when you do a transfer to another nation, the initial nation that sold you those jets has to approve that foreign military sale. There's rules in the contract about foreign military sales and transfers, and failure to abide by those rules mean you're in breach of contract. So the U.S. had to approve the transfer, but they're not U.S. jets. Now, those F-16s have played literally zero role in the conflict. Right now, those jets are just cutting holes in the sky over Odessa. Ukraine needs to figure out how to integrate those jets into their system. That's going to take a couple of months. Just getting them flying is step one. But to say that F-16s are being used in the incursion is either intentionally misleading or willfully ignorant. It is one of those two things. This came from co-host Crystal Ball. She doesn't have a LinkedIn, but her Wikipedia page, again, doesn't list any military service. So perhaps if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk about it. Or call me. My email address is on my website. I live right across the river from where you shoot the show. Have me as a guest. I'm not going to steal you wrong. But please, don't talk about things you don't understand. Let's keep going.
That all of the precision-guided munitions are very, very difficult to manufacture here in the U.S. We have very limited stocks of them. And of course, what has the Biden administration done? They've decided to greenlight shipping those precision-guided munitions for the F-16 back to Ukraine.
This is incredibly misleading. The truth is that there are some precision-guided munitions that are difficult to manufacture, but the precision-guided munition that was sent, in this case, is a type of bomb called a JDAM, or Joint Direct Attack Munition.
Some say that the Turkman is born with the ability to distinguish the sound of these after only hearing 1 second of video footage. You know this?
I believe they also have some JDAM ERs, which is an extended range glide bomb. Now, these are not that difficult to manufacture. The JDAM is basically a dumb bomb. We have hundreds of thousands of these things. And we take a bolt-on kit and we slap it onto the weapon, and now it's precision guided. It is a really cheap solution, and we have plenty of them. The next thing I want to show you, and now it's precision guided, dumb bomb. We have hundreds of thousands of these things. And we take a bolt-on kit and we slap it onto the weapon, and now it's precision.
Oh,
I believe they also have some JDAM ERs, which is an extended range glide bomb. Now, these are not that difficult to manufacture. The JDAM is basically a dumb bomb. We have hundreds of thousands of these things. And we take a bolt-on kit and we slap it onto the weapon, and now it's precision guided. It is a really cheap solution, and we have plenty.
The bolt-on kit allows you to, it'll, I don't actually know all the different stages or all the different types of, when we say precision guided. Like, does precision guided imply that it can change trajectory or change location, change target mid-flight? Or does it imply that once dropped, it has like surfaces that it can use to like maneuver around things, or to ensure like accurate, is it just ensuring accurate delivery to a predetermined target? Of
them. The next thing I want to show you is where Mr. Andretti just kind of drops the mask. If you didn't think that Sagar Andretti was pro-Russia, you will now.
And usually when the Ukrainians pull some terrorist attack or whatever in Russia, they're like, oh.
Look, you know, to call the Ukrainians terrorist
attacks. Oh, please hit on this. Yeah, everything today, because we just don't do war anymore. Nobody's like used to war. It's all like terrorist attacks and genocides and ethnic cleansing. All of it is. It's all like, it wouldn't surprise me. Has anybody talked about how Ukraine ethnically cleansed Russians from Kursk or whatever the fuck this region is called? Like, we use these terms for everything.
Our own country is certainly a collection of words that can be used in an English sentence. But at this point, I'm kind of wondering what side Mr. Andretti is on. Ukraine is being invaded, and it doesn't...
Ooh, that's the first stupid fucking thing that Ryan has said. Why are you wondering what side he's on? There should be no doubt in your mind.
But at this point, I'm kind of wondering what side Mr. Andretti is on. Ukraine is being invaded, and it doesn't seem like Mr. Andretti is on the side...
He's being tongue-in-cheek? Yes, so am I, obviously.
...of democracy here. And then Mr. Andretti says something that's really interesting.
And then Barry, this morning in the Wall Street Journal, they talk about how the Ukrainian commander is begging for more troops. They have no idea what to do. They've had 6 days worth of success. And now they're like, do we hold this territory? What do we do with this territory? Now we have to pull stuff away from previous defensive fronts over here. Their own military leadership has no idea what to do.
So Mr. Ingetti does read the Wall Street Journal, or maybe he just skims it, because I don't think we read the same article, which I think was, Ukraine's Russia incursion faces dilemma after quick gains. Nobody is begging, but there is a line in the article that says, the dilemma for Ukraine's leadership is whether the quest for further gains is worth wagering significantly more troops and military equipment that are sorely needed on the eastern front in Ukraine, where Kyiv's forces are struggling to contain Russian advances. And then there's another line that says, maybe I'm in the same position now as a pilot who doesn't understand why I sold a trench, said a Ukrainian battalion commander fighting near the eastern logistical hub of Petrovsk, where Russia has accelerated its advance in recent weeks, but my 1,000 men are very badly needed here. And the truth is that every battalion commander is going to ask for more men. Nobody has ever won a war by defending. And that's kind of what Ukraine is trying to do here. Maneuver warfare, where the landmines and trenches aren't. Now, I don't know if the Ukrainians don't know what to do. I think they know exactly what to do. And that is keep exploiting weak spots and going northeast into the Kursk Oblast and shoot everybody who isn't dressed like them that isn't a civilian. That's kind of their plan here. Just keep going. Kind of like the Hail Mary play in football. Pass the initiative to who's ever open and don't get bogged down. Just keep going. So I'm not sure if we read the same article, but that article will be below if you want to read it, although it might be paywalled. Let's keep going.
So yeah, it's been a good PR stunt.
So here's where I give my analysis. I don't know exactly what Ukraine is doing, but I can give 3 possible options. And no, it's not a PR stunt. That is a side effect. That's incidental. Number 1, it is possible that Ukraine is trying to reach some kind of objective in Kursk, although I don't know what that is. Number 2, it's possible this is a feint. This is a military operation where you give the impression you're going to do something, but actually you go do something else. So perhaps Ukraine intends to attack someplace else, but they don't want Russia to know that, so they want Russia to think that this is the main effort. And number 3, I think this is what Ukraine is really doing here. I think Ukraine is trying to force Russia into a general mobilization. When the war first started, it was fought with active duty volunteers, kontraktniki. And then Russia went through this period of general mobilization in September 2022. That was a freaking disaster. The records weren't up to date. Conscripts were being pushed into units, no training. People who got deferments for health reasons were being called up. You saw dudes who served in Afghanistan 40 years ago looking like that.
I don't know if Oh, okay, yeah, he just brought that up. Fuck, I saw a Twitter headline. I need to just not even repeat this news at all. Let me look for this. I don't know if I can even. I saw like a Twitter headline or something that said that in order to defend the current push into Russia, that Russia was taking all the prior people that had been rejected for health reasons and conscripting those people to fight. But I don't know if that's true or not. Oh, wait, hold on. Somebody has this tweet. Hundreds of Russians who have refused to fight for various reasons, age, sickness, mental health, are reported to have been taken from a military base where they were being held and flown to Kursk, where they would likely be used in efforts to repel Ukraine's incursion. Although, okay, I guess this doesn't just say, it says they refuse to fight for various reasons, so maybe they aren't actually sick. They could just be, you could argue, draft dodgers or whatever. Astra reports that hundreds of Refuseniks have been held at Kamenka near St. Petersburg, where the 138th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade is based. Relatives say that some are unfit to fight. One man is 70 years old and can barely walk, and another has only one eye. Telegram sources, fuck. As a rule of thumb, meaning I don't know if this always applies, and I might just be a boomer because I don't usually grab news from Twitter for a variety of reasons, because I consider this one of the most unreliable platforms on the internet right now. Not to say that everything is bad on it, I just don't know the accounts that I would consider trustworthy or anything. Anytime I'm getting pictures of stuff and hearing things like one person said that a person is 70 years old and one person said, I'm always just like very reluctant to just buy it outright. Even when like videos and pictures are being shown, like I can't contextualize any of this. I don't know how much is true or not true, but not to say whether or not it's trustworthy or not trustworthy. I don't know. Just as a rule of thumb, I don't typically.
This. And for the most part, in Russia's recent history, the elites in Moscow and St. Petersburg were down with whatever Putin wanted to do, as long as you didn't touch their kids. And a general mobilization touched their kids. So Russia stopped.
That's exact. Never mind.
To do, as long as you didn't touch their kids. And a general mobilization touched their kids. So Russia stopped that. They relied on volunteers. They relied on Wagner. Most of these volunteers were from poor areas of Russia, and Wagner was a lot of prisoners. So I think that this incursion was designed not to embarrass Russia, but to force Russia to recognize that there aren't enough troops and force another general mobilization. And if that happens, the populations of Moscow and St. Petersburg will go absolutely ape. And that's when you could see Putin overthrown. So let's keep going.
The longer this drags on, the moral ambiguity increases, the so-called justness of their cause decreases, their overall ability to even stand this without literally tens of billions of dollars a month having to flow there in Western aid. It shows us that this cannot go on forever, and we all know how it's going to end.
So this is incredibly misleading. First off, Russia is engaged in a war of aggression and dominance.
When we say we all know how this is going to end, I thought these guys have been saying that it's going to end like every single month for the last, what, 2.5 years or whatever? Or how many, when was the initial invasion? Boom, 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 boom. February 2022. Okay, 2 years. Yeah, no, 2.5 years. Yeah, what happened?
Ukraine is not. Ukraine performed this operation to achieve some sort of military or political goal. So to say that Ukraine has lost the moral high ground because they're on the offensive, it's incredibly disingenuous. And then to say, we all know how this war is going to end. Wow. I mean, if you're a woman and you're being assaulted by someone in an intimate nature and that guy has 100 pounds on you, would you just let it happen or would you fight back? Because we all know this is going to end. There's always a chance. Can you imagine someone in America after Pearl Harbor saying, Japan destroyed all of our battleships. We know this is going to end. We should just give up.
True. Notice me, Senpai, I have some Trump secret to tell you. About what?
No, man, you fight. So I don't even know why you would say something like that. I would hate to live in a world where good refuses to stand up to evil because it's hard. I mean, doing the hard thing is part of being the good guys.
Wait, actually, didn't we win? We won these naval battles. Am I wrong? I haven't studied any World War shit in great detail. How did we win this after, right? Yes. Okay. Just making sure my timelines aren't fucked. Well, how did we win these if they bombed our Pearl Harbor shit? The fuck? What happened? The Battle of Midway. Yeah. It's called We Own the Finish Line. True. Biden was a naval officer on one of these ships. You know, actually, speaking of Biden being a naval officer, this is the last one for today. No, not even close. Not even remotely close. What was the name of the old guy? The old, well, yeah, we take those. We take those. I swear the attack Pearl Harbor did not cost that many U.S. ships. There was high casualty count, but the damage to the U.S. Navy was not that big, no? Was it? Well, then what the fuck was the point? Hold on. Pearl Harbor attack. Wikipedia. Did I just come to the exact same article I was just at? No, we were at Midway. Okay. Four battleships sunk, 4 damaged. 1 X-battleship sunk. 3 light cruisers damaged. 3 destroyers damaged. 188 aircraft destroyed. Wait, how did this attack suck so much shit? 2008 sailors killed, 109 Marines killed, 280 soldiers killed. No carriers? Where were the carriers? Why didn't they go attack them? Or did we just not have anything big parked in? The general meme is that the Japanese attacked the destroyers and carriers. They didn't focus on the fuel and maintenance hangars. That, plus bombs not being as effective as they could be, resulted in them repairing the ships much quicker than expected. Okay, well, that's kind of cucked. How do you fuck up this bad? You know, they should have taken notes from. They should have went into the future. And they should have copied these guys. The Jews. They know how to do surprise air attacks. in a few hours, I think they completely obliterated Egypt's entire fucking air force. This was meme shit. Do they have the amount of like shit destroyed immediately? To be fair, it's Egypt as opposed to the United States of America, but total of 338 Egyptian aircraft were destroyed and 100 pilots killed, although the number of aircraft lost by the Egyptians is disputed. RIP. According to Yamamoto, it was their only chance at knocking out the U.S. fleet. They thought by striking a big enough blow would deter the U.S. from going to war in the Pacific. Okay, where were we? Sorry, finishing up.
So there you have it. Breaking Points has managed to mislead its audience with inaccuracies, poorly researched statements, and questionable motives. It is disheartening to see a platform that claims to represent the truth fall so short of the mark, especially on an issue as critical as the war in Ukraine. It's one thing to make mistakes. I mean, everyone does. But when those mistakes consistently align with harmful Russian narratives and misleading takes, it becomes something else entirely. Misinformation can have real-world consequences, and in times of war, those consequences can be dire. My advice, fact check everything, guys, especially from sources who should know better. Like me, I'll come on the show as your intel guy. I live right across the river. I can make it happen, and your show will be better for it. As viewers, we have a responsibility to hold media accountable. And as content creators, we have an even greater responsibility to be accurate and transparent. If you're looking for a balanced take on these issues, dig deeper, cross-reference, and don't take everything at face value. And hey, if you want to support the channel, hey, grab one of my Intel Life t-shirts from Bunker Branding, or sign up for my Substack. It's like $5. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Oh, wow, Daddy, cigarettes. If I smoke these, I'll be cool.
Hey, kid, what are you doing?
Think tank.
You know, kid, smoking isn't cool. The t-shirts, stickers, and hoodies from Bunker Branding sure are.
Wow, alcoholics moving cargo. Awesome.
Intel Life, Aerosol, Live Laugh Launch for Destroyer, Trident, HIMARS, and Patriot. Think outside the bomb. Drone Sweet Drone, Department of the Boat People, Landmine, and even the TOW missile. It would behoove you to grab one today. I better take these. Don't worry, I'll destroy them by burning. And remember, Bunker Branding is cool. Now I know. And knowing is half the battle. Bunker Branding!
Wow. Okay. I linked the video in chat. I would recommend this video. Do I care that much to learn about one particular aspect of World War II?
In June 1942, the war is going very well for the Empire of Japan.
And it's not even like a real human that's talking. It's a fucking bonger. Do I really want to... okay, let's get over it. I'm just kidding. We love our bongers. Listen, it's World War II time. Us and the bongers were one. We were brothers. In a band, one might say.
In June 1942, the war is going very well for the Empire of Japan. She has succeeded in her primary war objective, to secure the oil supplies of the Dutch East Indies, and has scored further territorial victories against the might of the British, US, Australian and Dutch forces in the West Pacific and Southeast Asia. However, knowing that the industrial power of the United States would outdo them in the end, the Japanese decide that they must deal a decisive blow to the remains of the US Pacific Fleet.
It's crazy how huge a lot of these ships are. Like this aircraft carrier, this is like the size of like the entire width of the island of Japan at some points. It's crazy how big these ships are. It's wild.
States would outdo them in the end. The Japanese decide that they must deal a decisive blow to the remains of the US Pacific Fleet, specifically the aircraft carriers. The threat to Midway, a US Navy submarine mounting station for operations in the Pacific, would hopefully draw the US Pacific Fleet out of Pearl Harbor to fight, ending in its defeat. Japan hoped that with the combination of the loss of Midway, the threat to Hawaii that would come from the loss of its airfield and port, and the loss of their Pacific Fleet, the US would come to the negotiating table for peace. The carrier-borne Doolittle bombing raid on Tokyo in April further validated the need to destroy the US naval presence in the Pacific. On the 28th of May 1942, the largest assembly of naval vessels ever seen in the Pacific leave their bases across Japan and head east. Their commander, Admiral Isaruko Yamamoto, is confident of victory. However, little does he know that the US Navy Combat Intelligence Office in Hawaii has cracked the Japanese communications code and are broadly aware of their plans.
Oh, that's the one, the gay autistic dude in the movie Oppenheimer, when they cracked the code. And then he tricked computers into thinking he was a human with his test.
Code and are broadly aware of their plans. US Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz has been alerted to the possible attack on Midway almost a month before the Japanese even set sail, and is assembling his defence. He deploys Task Forces 16 and 17, who under Admiral Halsey had executed the daring bombing raid on Tokyo a month before, to the northeast of Midway to lie in wait. Heavily damaged at the Battle of Coral Sea, the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown limps back to Pearl. She needs more than 2 weeks of repairs, which would put her out of action for the coming battle. But Nimitz is desperate for every carrier he can muster. 1,400 dockyard workers move into the ship en masse and labour around the clock. Miraculously, she is patched up to battle-ready condition and puts back to sea in just 72 hours. Yorktown sets sail with her escort fleet to meet with Task Forces 16 and 17. The US defence of Midway comprises 3 carriers carrying 233 aircraft, 8 cruisers, 15 destroyers, 16 submarines, and 127 land-based aircraft on Midway itself. The Japanese naval force heading towards Midway comprises 4 carriers, commanded by Vice Admiral Nagumo, 2 battleships, 7 cruisers, 14 destroyers, and 276 naval aircraft. Near them sails a transport fleet carrying the amphibious troops that would take Midway.
Genuine question. I've been enjoying BP for a while, specifically Ryan Grimm and Sager, because he challenges my beliefs. Am I dumb for this? Does BP suck? Listen, to each his own opinion. I think that BP is a highly untrustworthy network. It's a good network if you want to learn stuff because you want to fact check every single thing they say, but they are shameless purveyors of disinformation. They don't even make an effort to try to be factually correct on the things that they talk about, and the viewpoints that they tend to express will almost uniformly be anti-American in nature. So just my observation. So.
At just after 9 AM on the 3rd of June, a PBY recon aircraft spots approaching Japanese vessels and shadows them to provide a clearer report.
Damn. I have an imperfect yet fitting analogy for Trump and the Jan 6 that highlights the absurdity of the insurrection and the absurdity that is being considered for re-election. Sounds like you should post on the subreddit about it.
It's only the troop transport fleet. Overnight into the 4th of June, PBYs and B-17 bombers attack the transport vessels, with 1 hit on an oiler. From 3 AM, more PBYs take off from Midway to search for the carrier fleet. At 4:30 AM, the Japanese first strike wave begin to launch into the night sky from carriers Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu. First are the 36 Mitsubishi Zero fighters, providing air protection for the attacking force. Second come 36 Aichi Val dive bombers, followed by 36 heavier Nakajima Kate level bombers. A further 9 Zeros take off from Kaga to provide air cover to the fleet itself, and reconnaissance aircraft launch to conduct 300-mile search patterns.
I think this is supposed to be, isn't this historically the largest naval battle, I think, in the history of all of everything, right? Wow, Kian, thanks for the 50 gifted subs. I'm gonna be honest, you sound like you might have schizophrenia. You should probably stop donating and go talk to your therapist or a psychiatrist or whatever and get back on your meds, though, my dude. You was at this point not sure about since. What's considered the largest naval battle since this?
At 5:34 AM, a PBY reports sighting a carrier. The defending aircraft on Midway are ready to launch with engines started. Using
Oh wait, hold on. The Battle of the Blackwater. The largest naval battle in history is a disputed title between adherents of varying criteria, which include the number of personnel and/or vessels involved in the naval battle, the total displacement of the vessels involved, and sometimes the significance and/or implications of the battle. So candidates, we've got Salamis, September 480 BC. Excuse me? What, were they made of... I was going to say plastic, which would be more fancy than wood. Who cares? Greek ships defeated 600 and 900 Persian ships in this decisive battle off the coast of Athens. Cape Eknomus, who cares? 256 BC. Red Cliffs, who cares? Yaman, they couldn't even spell it right. Who cares? The late Gulf, the largest in terms of displacement of ships in the combined orders of battle, if not necessarily in terms of displacement of the ships engaged, was also the largest in terms of U.S. is 3rd and 7th fleets, including some Australians. Okay, maybe this is just one of the most important ones, I guess. Fuck me. Never mind. Not even mentioned. Who cares? Back to this.
Now to evade anti-aircraft fire and Zeros, the PBYs report a further sighting at 5:52 of 2 carriers. Minutes later, Midway's radar station detects a large formation of incoming Japanese aircraft at 93 miles and 11,000 feet. The air raid sirens wail into life, and Marine Buffalo and Wildcat fighters are scrambled to meet the raiding force of 108 aircraft. Next up are the 16 Dauntless and 11 Vindicator dive bombers, followed by 6 Avenger torpedo bombers and 4 B-26 Marauders. Many of the aircraft launched are considered obsolete. The 37 bombers make course for the Japanese carrier group, unescorted. The US fighters have gained height advantage over the incoming Japanese, and at 6:16 AM dive on the bombers. The superior Zeros move in and engage the Buffaloes and Wildcats. During a confused few minutes of dogfighting, the Zeros maul the American fighters, shooting down 13 Buffaloes and 2 Wildcats. The Marine pilots have put up a gallant fight against hopeless odds, with Japanese reports later overestimating their numbers, but their obsolete aircraft are just no match for the Zeros.
Oh my god, it was like the Dothraki in the beginning of the Long Night fight.
These reports later overestimating their numbers, but
Wait, do you have it? When is radar invented? When is radar invented? Was this during World War II? Like, when was it invented and like used and deployed in? Huh. It was used heavily in World War II, especially by the Brits versus the Nazis. I thought this was the where the carrot meme came from. I don't know if that's true or not. I just hear that said that the Brits said if you eat carrots, it helps your eyesight. As like a meme to trick the other side into not understanding why they had like such good information about stuff. I don't know if that was actually a true thing or not though. But, huh? Okay. You have to admit that World War II was the most Kino shit was, the amount of new shit being made that still involved human skill. Yeah, well, because the problem after World War II is it's the classic anime problem of overpowering all of your characters such that you can't like meaningfully engage with or evolve the story anymore, right? Like, you know, like Master Roshi blew up the moon in Dragon Ball. That's how strong he was. He could blow up the whole moon. Well, what's going to happen in the future? Like, basically, a character stepping on a planet should be able to blow it up. And you get these characters that can come back to life and explode entire planets, and it's like, okay, well, this is dumb. And yeah, in World War II, the writers already gave us, like, nuclear weapons, and it's like, wow, you have the power to blow up, like, entire cities with single bombs. And then after that, there's, like, no place to go. So now it's just, like, side characters that all fight with each other. So it's kind of boring. True.
their obsolete aircraft are just no match for the Zeros. Nearly unscathed from the attack, the Japanese attack midway. With a lack of aircraft targets on the ground, the level-bombing Kates hit the island's oil tanks and the AA installations that are putting up a vicious war.
Wasn't it Piccolo that destroyed the moon? Was it? Was it Piccolo or Master Roshi? Gohan was going to transform into an Uzuru, and then somebody blew up the moon. I thought it was Roshi, but maybe it was... Who was the first one that did it during a fighting tournament? They both did? Oh, maybe they both did.
Lack of aircraft targets on the ground, the level-bombing Kates hit the island's oil tanks and the AA installations that are putting up a vicious wall of fire to meet them. The dive-bombing Vals attack hangars, supporting installations, and the powerhouse. The main hangar erupts in flame. Having dropped their fuel tanks, the Zeros conclude the attack with strafing runs on remaining AA weapons. 13 minutes after the explosive attack began, the raiders withdraw. At 7 AM, the Japanese raid commander sends a message back to the fleet that a second raid will be required to fully neutralize the base. They haven't disabled the runway, nor knocked out heavier defensive weaponry that would later be used on amphibious troops. Over at Task Forces 16 and 17, Admiral Fletcher orders USS Hornet and Enterprise to begin launching their air wings. This is much earlier than planned, but he is keen to hit the Japanese carriers at their most vulnerable point, just after the air wings have returned from their raid on Midway, and while they are refueling and rearming. As only 2 of the 4 enemy carriers have been spotted, he holds launching Yorktown's air wing for another hour and a half. The B-26s and Avengers are the first to attack the Japanese carriers. Zeros fall on the Avengers as they brave the wall of AA fire to...
Is it true that war is good for the economy? I don't know enough Macri kind of tell you. It sounds a little bit like a broken window fallacy to me, but it's possible. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Launch their torpedoes against Hiryu. They all miss owing to evasive maneuvering by the carrier, and 5 of the 6 Avengers are destroyed. The 4 B-26s follow. 1 is shot down on its run-in, and another receives crippling AA damage, resorting to an attempted suicide attack on the Akagi. It narrowly misses the bridge containing the carrier group's commander Vice Admiral Nagumo, and crashes into the sea.
Dude, you don't even know what a Zero is? It's time to do research on planes and jets. Aren't Zeros the planes that the Japanese people glued themselves into and they suicide bombed other people? Piccolo blew up the moon, loser. You just called me a loser saying Piccolo blew up the moon. Now I'm going to double check, and now you're getting banned. Because I said Dragon Ball, okay? And I feel like a lot of casual fucks are mixing this up with Dragon Ball Z. When did Piccolo blow up the moon? Was Piccolo in Dragon Ball? No, he did. In Dragon Ball, Piccolo seemingly destroys the moon in Saiyan Saga Episode 3 while training Gohan. During the episode, Gohan transformed into a great ape after seeing the full moon, so Piccolo uses... When did Roshi blow up the moon, Dragon Ball? I don't know which one came first. You're lucky, okay? That's DBZ. Oh, wait, did I just trust an AI overview? Oh, fuck me, see? The first time Dragon Ball's moon was blown up was during the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, Master Roshi. Okay, wait, hold on. Piccolo only blew it up in Dragon Ball Z. Fuck you. Yeah, I was right. Fuck you.
2 torpedoes are released but miss, and the surviving 2 bombers make for home. An ambiguous into the sea. 2 torpedoes are released, misses the bridge containing the carrier group's commander Vice Admiral Nagumo, and crashes into the sea. 2 torpedoes are released but miss, and the surviving 2 bombers make for home.
Wait, I thought torpedoes were just things launched underground. Or not underground, I'm sorry, underwater. Can a plane launch a torpedo? Can a plane shoot a missile into the water that becomes a torpedo?
An ambiguous message comes into Nagumo from a recon plane that 10 US surface ships have been spotted north of Midway. While reflecting on what to do with this information, at 7:48 AM the next US wave arrives. The Zeros tear into the 16 Dauntless dive bombers and shoot down 8 as they run in at a shallow angle towards the Hiryu. This unorthodox and inaccurate angle of attack is chosen because of the inexperienced pilots. All 8 remaining aircraft drop their bombs and miss.
What's the difference between a torpedo and a missile? All torpedoes are missiles, not all missiles are torpedoes. In the real world, torpedoes are self-propelled projectiles, missiles, that travel through the water, whereas missiles in general refer to self-propelled projectiles that travel through the air or space. In the Expanse, torpedoes are fired... Oh, this is some... With aerial torpedoes. An aerial torpedo is a torpedo launched from a torpedo bomber aircraft into the water, after which... Oh, okay, it is. Oh, okay. I kind of mean when I said that answer, but all right. So it's a thing you drop, and then once it hits the water, it does its thing. Oh, okay.
15 B-17 heavy bombers that had earlier taken off to attack the transport force has been rerouted to join the attack on the carriers, and arrive at 8:10 AM at 20,000 feet. The carriers perform evasive maneuvers as the bombers release their ordnance. It is not surprising that all of the bombs dropped from such a high altitude miss.
Losers.
Finally, the 11 Vindicators
Yikes.
arrive and are greeted by another ferocious attack by the defending Zeros. The flight's commander decides not to press on towards the carriers, but instead to attack the nearby battleship Haruna. Again, all bombs miss for the loss of 3 Vindicators. As the Midway first strike wave aircraft begin to return to his carriers...
Why do that instead of dropping? If I had to guess, some advantages would be that, 1, you can probably drop them from a greater distance, so you're not as at risk against anti-air weapons. And then 2, I don't know if at this stage, if technology would have allowed people to intercept enemy missiles. I don't know if that was a thing you could do with guns, or there were interceptors or whatever at that point. But you might have less defenses against torpedoes underwater than you would against missiles, like the actual missile itself. Maybe those are maybe my two guesses.
Nagumo can't help but think that the morning action has been a clear victory for his forces. Morale in his fleet is high. They no longer fear the American attack because the raids so far have been weathered so easily with minimal damage sustained against their vessels. However, he's now received a more definite report from his recon planes. The report says that the US vessels spotted earlier are accompanied by a single carrier. He realizes that this is his chance to inflict a decisive blow to the US Pacific Fleet that they desire, and orders his aircraft re-equipped with torpedoes and ship strike bomb fuses. The fleet changes
People are also saying underwater explosions generally also do way more damage. Okay.
his course towards the Americans. A single carrier should be a simple target to destroy. He needs 45 minutes to rearm and refuel his Midway strike aircraft. Little does Nagumo know, the air wings of Enterprise, Hornet, and now Yorktown are approaching. Such was the need for urgency to launch the strike. Most US aircraft did not form up over the carriers, but headed straight out on takeoff. This has them spread out over a long line astern. A total of 156 aircraft from the 3 carriers, made up of 41 Devastator torpedo bombers, 89 Dauntless dive bombers, and 26 Wildcat fighters, approach in piecemeal formations.
People are also saying there was a lot of unguided munitions at this time, or most munitions were unguided, so if you're trying to shoot a missile at a plane, that might be harder than just having a torpedo going to like the broadside of a ship versus trying to actually hit a rocket onto a plane as well. Maybe.
First in line are Wildcats from Hornet and Dauntlesses from Hornet and Enterprise, but the unknown course change Nagumo ordered towards the Americans has rendered them unable to find the Japanese fleet. These Hornet aircraft take no further part, but the Dauntlesses from Enterprise turn north in search. They still have a part to play. Next are the slow and lumbering Devastators. On a hunch, Hornet's 15 Devastators have preemptively turned north to search for the enemy, and the gamble has paid off. Knowing that their survival chances are slim, they bravely fly towards the Akagi as Zeros fall on them. 14 of the 15 aircraft are blown to pieces on the run-in by Zeros and AA fire. Only one Devastator makes it to drop its torpedo, which misses, before meeting the same fate as the others.
LMAO.
An entire squadron shot down, with only one survivor. Almost immediately, 14 Devastators from Enterprise begin their attack. For some reason, they don't signal for their escorting Wildcats to drop from the clouds to protect them from the Zeros, and they start their run towards Karga. A similarly brutal fate awaits them. 7 are cut to pieces by Zeros and Flak, before they make a last-second change to drop their torpedoes against Heryu. Again, cruelly, all torpedoes miss. A further 3 Devastators are lost, and the remaining 4 leave the battle. The Zero force is running low on ammunition, and some are beginning to land to rearm when the Akagi spots yet another raiding force. Yorktown's air wing has arrived in a coherent strike group of Dauntlesses, Devastators, and Wildcat fighter cover. However, the Devastators find themselves isolated from the others when the group flies through heavy cloud. The Wildcats engage some Zeros at the start of their bomb run, but yet again they basically make their attack alone. They receive the same slaughter as the other squadrons, and only 2 of the 12 Devastators make it back, with no successful torpedo hit.
LMAO. Jesus.
The slaughter of the American airmen is not in vain, however. Every attack delays the Japanese ability to launch the counterattack strike against the US carrier group, and keeps the Zeros down at sea level. A much more lethal purpose is being served by their sacrifice. High above the now ammunition-depleted Zero cover, 47 Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrive above the clouds. By chance, the Dauntlesses from Enterprise that couldn't locate the carriers earlier
I have an idea on how to fix American politics, American elections. Post on the subreddit then. Go. Boom.
found them at the precise moment Yorktown's Dauntlesses arrive. All 47 aircraft scream in and release their munitions. Karga takes 4 direct bomb hits, killing the captain and setting off a chain reaction of explosions in the hangar among the armed and fueled strike aircraft. Soryu takes a similar punishment of 3 bomb hits, including to the hangar. Finally, the flagship Akagi takes a single bomb hit, with the same results that armed aircraft in her hangar detonate in a massive chain reaction.
Damn.
The 3 carriers burn ferociously, and are consumed by uncontrollable fire. Eventually, all 3 crews will abandon and scuttle their ships. After the Americans withdraw to the northeast, the remaining Japanese carrier Heryu launches 18 Val dive bombers and 6 Zeros to strike back at the Americans.
Wait, is scuttling the ship, is that when you... Is it just, are you leaving it to sink, or is scuttling it when you just, like, do minimal operations and you're just trying to, like, get it back to a hangar alive, but it's not, like, operational for combat anymore? Scuttling is when you deliberately sink it. Okay. Damn.
Withdraw to the northeast, the remaining Japanese carrier Heryu launches 18 Val dive bombers and 6 Zeros to strike back at the Americans. Yorktown is recovering and refueling her aircraft as she detects the attack on radar. All fuel pumps to the deck are shut off and the fire suppression system readied. Wildcats from Yorktown engage and destroy 3 Zeros and 11 Vals. Of the 7 remaining bombers, 2 more are shot down by flak, but the remainder score 3 hits on Yorktown, starting a fire. Thanks to the preemptive fire control actions, the fire is manageable. No sooner is the fire contained, a second wave of aircraft approaches. This time 10 Kate torpedo bombers and 6 Zeros. Wildcats and flak account for some aircraft shot down, but the Yorktown is struck by 2 torpedoes. Yorktown remains afloat, but a burning wreck. In a final all-out attack on the final Japanese carrier, Hornet and Enterprise launch 42 Dauntlesses. Heryu's dwindling fighter patrols are not the force they were earlier in the day, and shoot down only 2. There's no stopping the inevitable now. She takes 4 direct and fatal bomb hits. Her fate is sealed, and she will sink the following morning.
Wow.
2 days later, destroyer USS Hammond is taking part in salvage efforts to save Yorktown. A Japanese submarine infiltrates the protective cordon and launches a deadly salvo of torpedoes against the 2 ships. They both sink. The battle is a clear victory for the Americans. In the 4 lost carriers, Japan has lost her most potent offensive force. Strategically, the desire to bring the US to the negotiating table has failed, and the industrial might of the United States will now be brought against Japan. The battle sees the loss of the offensive initiative for Japan, and she will not regain it.
Wow. Absolutely, Eben. What is this?
Permanent genocide, actually.
Do you want the SS training your police?
Yeah.
Do you want everyone from the fucking dog catcher to the senator from your state vetted by the political arm, the international political lobbying arm?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't use sound effects on this.
Permanent genocide, actually.
Do you want the SS training your police?
Yeah.
Do you want everyone from the fucking dog catcher to the senator from your state vetted by the political arm, the international political lobbying arm?
The lieutenant governor is what he's talking about. Like, oh my god, that shit was so crazy.
Yeah. Do you want them vetting every candidate you vote for, training your police? How many weapons are enough? How many weapons are you willing to give them at cost for nothing, even? So that this can go on forever, so that they never have to truly face the consequences of the world that they have created around themselves.
Who, am I supposed to know who they're talking about? Am I just not... Listen, hold on. Who the fuck are they talking about?
Permanent genocide, actually.
Do you want the SS training your police?
Yeah.
Do you want everyone from the fucking dog catcher to the senator from your state vetted by the political arm, the international political lobbying arm?
The lieutenant governor is what he's talking about. Like, oh my god, that shit was so crazy.
Yeah.
Israel?
Do you want them vetting every candidate you vote for, training your police? How many weapons are enough? How many weapons are you willing to give them at cost for nothing, even? So that this can go on forever, so that they never have to truly face the consequences of the world that they have created around themselves, and that we have to.
That's the other aspect of it. Like all the Black Lives Matter protests, we're talking about the disproportionate targeting of black people by police. Like post 9/11, IDF has trained every single fucking police department in this country. You know what I mean?
Is that true? Post 9/11, the IDF has trained every single police department in the United States. What is he linking to, or what is he referring to there? That sounds like a lot of. That sounds like a lot of IDF people coming to the United States to train. It wouldn't surprise me if our entire police force is probably like 1/10 the size of like the entire population of Israel. How many active police officers are in the United States? Isn't it like 1 million officers? How many active police officers are in the United States? In 2022, there were 708,000 full-time law enforcement officers. Okay. Jesus. What's the meme with the two people passing each other in the cars? Like one has to be like 92% of 20 to 30-year-old women being flown to Dubai, and then they're crossing the 98% of the IDF being flown to the United States to train cops. Like, okay.
We're talking about the disproportionate targeting of black people by police. Like post 9/11, IDF has trained every single fucking police department in this country. You know what I mean? Like kettling, corralling as a strategy that actual Black Lives Matter protesters experienced was like common practice from the IDF, counterterrorism practices that they taught to American police precincts all the way from New York City, which also happens to have a division in Tel Aviv, down to like Terre Haute, Indiana. You know what I mean? It's not like this was like it's not like this is only in the big cities or whatever. This is like across the board. That shit's crazy.
What are they? This sounds like the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like there are so many. This is so stupid on so many different levels that like Israeli counterterrorism was employed or deployed against Black Lives Matter protesters. Like it was like this horrible, terrible. Like how many BLM protesters got killed in the whole summer of rioting? Like he's making it sound like Israel, the genocide pros, came to the U.S. to teach our cops how to also be genocide pros, and then the BLM protesters all got genocided. Like what?
So it does actually reinforce white supremacy in America as well, because it's simply white supremacy already in the form of our foreign policy upon the global south.
I think a lot of the stuff you see of people just, acting cynically, whether it is like, Isaac Edward Devore saying that Shapiro was like singled out, or whether it is whatever influencer anywhere trying to sow division, anything, any type of like just broad cynicism you see of this that is like, a misdirection in nature. It is trying to get you to think about anything, something else other than the direct angle of this. That is someone who is fully aware that all of this is a stain on all of us. It is a stain, a mark on every American. It is them trying not to think about that. And they're trying to convince themselves.
Okay, this is retarded. This sounds like some shit I would hear from a griper. I don't even know how to engage with this. Okay, what is this?
Point. Not the fact that there are like black troops on deployment, because that's another consequence of like America exploiting underserved communities to consistently have like some function of a poverty draft. But
to be clear, also, the poverty draft, or the idea that it's only poor people, or that our military is even made up of majority poor people, is not true. There's no data that supports that. That's just not a true claim, but we can pretend it is, I guess. Okay.
Actually, a really important point. Not the fact that there are like black troops on deployment, because that's another consequence of like America exploiting underserved communities to consistently have like some function of a poverty draft. But this part, where she talks about like how America puts black people into positions of power to specifically justify heinous acts. That part is absolutely correct, and it is deliberate. I mean, it's the Colin Powell phenomena. Like it's the fact that like the.
That's he's such a disgusting fucking racist piece of shit. He's making reverse DEI arguments. Is that? Like he's literally doing the.
A lot of stuff going on this year. Everything racial this year. What's the big thing this year? Election. Colin Powell. He should run. He could win. Colin could win. He should run. He can't win. Colin Powell can't win. Colin Powell got a better chance of winning the bronze in female gymnastics.
I'm looking for the speaks well comment. Fuck.
Shit, Colin Powell. White people say they're gonna vote for him because it seemed like the right thing to say. Just like if you ask somebody if they want to be an organ donor, they're dead. And now I don't got no eyes. Can't see shit. Colin Powell. president. Get the hell. You know I can tell Colin Powell can't be president? Whenever Colin Powell on the news, white people always give him the same compliments. Always the same compliments. How do you feel about Colin Powell? He speaks so well. He's so well spoken. He speaks so well. I mean, he really speaks well. He speaks so well. Like that's a compliment. Speak so well is not a compliment, okay? Speak so well, some shit you say about retarded people that can talk.
Does he think that Colin Powell was just like an affirmative action pick? That like that the Bush administration was so concerned with black representation that they just picked Colin Powell, who had no qualifications or no background at all? They're like,
black people into positions of power to specifically justify heinous acts. That part is absolutely correct, and it is deliberate. I mean, it's like it's the Colin Powell phenomena. Like it's the fact that like the UN ambassadors are black. Like you that is deliberate. That is 100% deliberate. Like that's on purpose. Like these are people playing the role of a shield.
Right, it's the same reason for Biden's
how old is Hassan again? Maybe he was living in Turkey at this time when 9/11 and all that shit happened? Like how many people were like, okay, well, I don't know if we can go along with this, but it is Colin Powell who's also speaking to us, and he is black. Like, if I say the video is quiet, will I get banned? No, because it is quiet. Fuck whoever made this.
Press secretary.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just like a very cynical and very racist way in which, like, this doesn't mean that like black people don't deserve to be in that position at all. That's not what I'm saying. This is the other side of like, this is how
I'm not saying that black people don't deserve to be there. I'm just saying that when you are there, it's just because you're a token piece of shit and nobody actually thinks you're qualified for the job and they're just using you. You understand that you would say this, Hassan would say this about any black person in all of the government because he thinks the entire American government is evil and corrupt and bad, right? So every black person must be a token because they're all being used to further the evilness, right? Like
the other side of like the way liberals also basically put forward like a shield of race to whitewash their actions. I don't like this take, brother. I mean, look, it's
like the shield of like my brother. You are so poisoned by recent American politics. There was no shield of race after 9/11. We openly hated Arabs here. That was no secret, bro. Everybody hated Arabs in America after 9/11. Bro, in New York, they were trying to outlaw having fucking mosques, okay? Anywhere near where the smoldering remains of the two towers were there. Nobody was trying to be racially sensitive after fucking 9/11. What does this take?
Cornel West, who said black faces in high places will not be able to undermine white supremacy. This is a white supremacist reinforcement, ultimately. That's what it is. Catalyst of a TikTok live argument? Yeah. At the college protest you went to, they sent a black faculty leader to talk to the students? Yeah, that was UCLA. Liberals love doing this shit. Actually, a really important point. Not the fact that there are like black troops on deployment, because that's a...
I wonder how much research Hassan was doing today. How many Twitter tabs do we got open? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 tweets. He must have been doing a lot of reading today. Plus 1 TikTok, 2 YouTube videos, and an article from the Associated Press. Damn. Why is nobody asking why Destiny has ready-to-go clips with 3 views for Hassan? Is he literally preparing for anti-Hassan propaganda? Smiley face. This is the definition of obsession. Or maybe when I'm not streaming, sometimes my fans watch Hassan and they make a streamable and they go, hey, watch this and react. But who knows?